Welcome to our new series called Scary Love. I call it our single series, so all the single people don't stay home. Yep, that's how that works. Married people, you're coming anyway because you know, right? You need some of this. This is so huge, man. I'm pumped about speaking about marriage because I believe it's the key to a lot of things when we're talking about having good family. Now, listen, I grew up watching scary movies. So you saw the scary thing, right? I grew up watching scary movies. I don't know how I grew up watching scary movies. I can't pinpoint how it happened. I'm from a two-family home where you custodies and all that stuff. So maybe I got to work in scary movies somehow that way. But I got to see a lot of scary movies, and I had a lot of scary movie favorite characters, right? And so maybe some of you can check out some of these, right? This was one I started with. This is Jason Voorhees right here, all right? Jason Voorhees is the only one where you are like tearing through the forest it could be Usain Bolt running through the forest, and Jason is just walking and he catches them somehow, right? And then when he catches them, he just bends them backwards. It's just sick and nasty, and it was just fun to watch, right? But then there was Michael Myers, all right? Michael Myers, he could just stand behind a bush from far off, and you just pee your pants, right? He didn't even do anything, right? He never came, but he just and then you turn, you close your eyes, and then he's gone from the bush, right? Michael, I really like Michael too, right? Then you got this little thing, you just want to punt, right? I mean, really? Come on, this guy, you kick him and then your leg gets chopped off. It's how did you do this, some of you you still don't let some of your children have stuffed animals, right? Or stuffed dolls or whatever because you're afraid of Chucky, yeah? And then you have, then you have Freddy, right? Yeah, some of you are just sick that you're rooting Freddy on the way, because Freddy was funny. Wasn't Freddy funny? Freddy was funny and then your head's gone, right? It was funny, and then you're dead. And so Freddy, of course, had a lot of jokes and Nightmare on Elm Street and all that. And then you got to mix in the freaky clown, right? Freaky clown. I guess that some of you still won't go to circuses and stuff like that because of Stephen King and the clown. And then what? What else do we got? I think what's that? For some of you younger people. Yeah, it's if you really want out, you have got to cut your arm off before you can leave. It's really? Then you go out the door and then you fall in a hole and die. It's you were a terrible guy, that was. And then you got for some of you who really get this, then you have this guy right here, right. Then you have the Scream character, right? Man, the only movie where, what was the name of that? Was it, I forget her, at the very beginning of the movie, she dies. We're aren't you the star of the movie? And then we're this is a real guy, man. He doesn't care who it is. He is going to kill him. So that's a Scream guy right there. But it's funny, spoiler alert, that the Scream guy also played this guy, Shaggy. It's then you watch Scooby-Doo with your children, and they're Dad, watch this with me, and it's the Scream guy. And you're this is just not right, But back to the Scream picture real quick. Back to the Scream picture. What do? See, we think of a lot of things, right? We like being scared and everything else until it comes to marriage. Until it comes to our idea of marriage. And some of us think of the idea of marriage like this, right? This is your spouse, all, ready. You're you didn't look like that when we were dating, white mask, get some makeup on or something, It's no, that knife, and then he's just always, and sometimes we think of it that way. That's not what marriage, okay, this is what we're talking about. That's not what marriage was meant to be. Single people, as you're here today, married people, as you're here today, we have our things that we're afraid of about marriage. And maybe you've been divorced before, and now you're thinking, I have this fear about marriage. I have this understanding about marriage. And I want to spend just a few weeks. And I'm telling you, this is going to be great because some of you, this is what I was telling some of our single people, some of you are just driving on Sea-Doos right now. You can just move the Sea-Doo and be I'm going to change. Some of you, again, are in speedboats. Some of you are on pontoons. You're married. Some of you are in the Titanic right now. It's just going toward, you can't move it. You got to call down to the steam room. You're get some coal in that thing. We got to move this marriage. This is a great opportunity for you, single people, married people, for you to hear some of the fears we have about marriage and move. And move. If you leave these next 4 weeks and you have not moved over, and you have not got that Titanic to move, or you've got the speedboat going in another direction, then man, you have failed in this series. And probably maybe I have failed. I don't know. But it's time to move. in the marriage. Here's a couple things I want to lift up, okay? Marriage, we know, was not meant to be scary. But yet we all have our ideas and we all have our fears from maybe some experiences that we've had, maybe from some conversations that we've had, maybe from some shows or movies that we watch, or maybe from some Real Housewives. Whatever it is that we're watching, we get these fears and ideas about marriage. Here's a couple of them, or a few of them, I'm going to throw out because these are the ones we're going to cover, okay? I'm just going to let you know so you get your butts back in your seats next Sunday. And if you're watching online and you're at the lake or whatever, get back here for next Sunday. It's going to be huge for your marriage, I promise. Well, here's a few things we're scared about. That it won't be fun anymore after we're married, okay? That it won't be fun anymore. How about this? That's the first week. That the kids will suck the life out of our marriage. Can I get an amen? Yeah, some of y'all are like, oh my, took a deep breath, right? That the kids will suck the life. Sorry, Ben, as you're in here. Yeah, Ben, sorry you heard that. How about this one? We have these fears too. That his family or her family are going to just drive us crazy. And they're going to divide our loyalties. We have these fears in marriage, or when you're thinking of being married, that, man, her family kind of crazy, man, or his family's kind of crazy, and she's really close to her mom, or he's really close to his dad. And, man, they're kind of crazy, and I don't know if that's really going to work out. And then this one, too, pretty deep, but true. That we will repeat the marriage of our parents. These are fears that we have, that we will repeat the marriage of our parents, whether young or old, like we see it right now. I've even seen some younger people, single people, whatever, who are so dissuaded by marriage because of what they've seen in their parents' marriages. And I'm here in these next few weeks just to say, man, God does not want that for you. He has got a great design in place. He has got great scripture in place that can help move your marriage boat, okay? It can help move it and say, let's go in this direction because it's going to be good. Okay, so today, here's what we're going to do. We're going to cover the first fear that we have. The first fear that we have, and we're going to have fun with this one because I think it's very important because there's so many miserable marriages out there that aren't having any more fun, all right? So here's the one we're going to cover today. I'm afraid, I'm scared, I just have this fear, I got this Michael Myers fear, I got these Freddy claws on, I'm just like scared that we're not going to have any more fun. And whether you just got married or whatever, it's like, man, I'm just afraid that we're not having any fun anymore. And some of you who maybe have been married, you're thinking, we're not having any fun. And maybe this is just what it is. And it's not meant to be like that. That's not where it started. Did it not? It didn't start that way. Are you kidding me? Like when we were dating, like we were dating, right? And when it was being developed, and we're like, man, it didn't start with this idea that we're not going to have fun. It started with fun, didn't it? Didn't it start with fun? If you are dating right now, or if you're engaged, or if you're married, think back to the moment where you got together. And all this bull about love at first sight, no, there's none. There's no love. There's not even like at first sight, all right? There's just she's hot, he's hot. That's it. That's it. Okay, so all of that nonsense, sorry if your parents taught you that, there's no love at first sight. There's no even like at first sight. That develops. And what it does is it develops in this sense that you become like-minded with this person. You become like-minded with them. Like you're just like, man, oh, you like that? Really? I like that. And some of you guys just lie and you don't like it, but then you start liking it. You're like, you go back home and you Google what she likes. And you're like, I like that too. I'm just going to start liking that too. And I want to like what she likes and I want to like what he likes. And you start to like the same things. You develop that because you start to like that person. You start to like them. You don't love them at the beginning. Are you kidding me? You don't call your friends and say, I think I love him after like a week or two. No. What do you say? I think I... Yeah, say it together. Yeah, if you said, I think I love them, you've got some serious problems, right? But you probably just said, hey, I think I really like him. Like that's the conversation, right? Well, how does this develop? How does this like develop? When we figured out that we liked our spouse or our future spouse, when we did that, our behavior changed, didn't it? Like our behaviors just changed. I mean, fellas, your behavior changed When you figured out that's not that you love, let's stop. When you liked this person, your behavior began to change. You were like, you started to do different things. You started doing things that you just wouldn't think about doing. That if your fellas knew that you did, that you would be like, oh, fellas, didn't want you knowing that I did. But then you're like, I don't care. I really like her. And your voice is squeaking. And you're like, I like her, so I'm going to do these things that she likes. And so what happens is that your behavior starts to change. Think of some of the things that you did, okay? Think of some of the things you did when you figured out that you liked your spouse, or that you liked your fiance, or that you liked when you're liking this person right now, okay? Some of the things that you did. Don't you read their text messages over and over again? Or in some of your cases, like letters in the mail, I guess that was what that was, right? Like some of you still get the letters out, or like the first emails ever that came out, AOL.com. You're like, I still have that email, and you just read them over and over again, whatever. And so maybe right now they'll send you a text message and you read it over and over again. Some of you dressed up for the moments. You just dressed up because you just dressed up just in case you might see them. Like you kept your stuff together just in case you might see them. And that was, hey, again, let's go back to this. That was when you liked them. Okay? That was when you liked them. You would dress up for moments, for hours, just in case there's a moment that you might see this person. And how about just when you were liking each other, you would take long walks, right? Long walks to just nowhere. I mean, just nowhere. And fellas, we don't take long walks to nowhere, do we? Some of you are like, heck no, I don't take long walks to nowhere. I won't even take a walk to the refrigerator. Lady, will you get me my drink or whatever? You won't. I mean, you're like, you won't even take. But when we liked the person, when we liked them, we took long walks just to nowhere, right? Long walks to nowhere. And how about being on the phone? Right, being on the phone, guys, till 2 a.m. in the morning. I mean, just 2 a.m. in the morning, just breathing on the phone. Just breathing. I mean, really. I mean, it's like, what are you doing? No, same thing I was doing a minute ago. Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. On the phone till 2 a.m. in the morning, and you liked them. You did. Let's be clear. You did not love them then. You liked them then. I mean, a couple other things. How about this? Did you ever do this right here? Check out this picture right here. Did you ever do this board? When you liked them, you didn't even love them yet. This was just when you were dating. Like, you were like, all my life I dated goobers and nerds. I finally met a red hot guy. He gave me love that was good and plenty. And I wouldn't trade it for a payday or $100,000. I never thought I'd score a man who makes me snicker. I'm so happy that I found a great guy in this enormous Milky Way. Man, who would do that? That is so dumb. But I did that, by the way. But I couldn't find Christy was good. I mean, she's hot. Yeah, I say was. She is. I mean, and I made one of those poster boards. I had it all ready. I couldn't find the picture, so I had to Google that one. But I'm like, and listen, I'll just say, I didn't love her then. I liked her then. And we did these crazy, crazy things. One time when we were dating, I wanted to learn a song on guitar. I don't know any of this stuff, by the way, okay? But I wanted to learn a song on guitar for her, and it was a two-chord song. That's it. Give Us Clean Hands. And all I had to do was hold my fingers in a crooked, arthritic way and strum one chord. And I could sing a little bit. I'm like, give us clean. I was like, I'm ready. I was like, right. So I brought her upstairs in my parents' house. I lived in my parents' house at the time. Okay, I was getting ready for ministry, man. Don't be judging me, all right? And so I took her upstairs. I'm like, I want to take you upstairs, baby. And she's like, really? Weird. Why you want to take me upstairs to your parents' house? I'm like, come on upstairs. So come upstairs. I shut the door. I had this, guitar in there. I put my foot up on the bed. I got my fingers all ready and they're shaking. I'm like, I think I'm ready. I got the pick. My stepdad let me borrow his guitar. And I'm like, man, I looked at her. I was like, man, I really like you, So I'm like, the pick flies up, out, right, and goes over the dresser. So she's like super like nice, I guess, but she's like, oh, okay, it's all right. She's like, oh, and I'm like, no, I'm sorry, that's not meant to, wasn't supposed to happen. So I grabbed another pick, from my step. So I'm like, I got this one right. So get it again, I strum and I get down the first two chords, first two little strings or whatever, and the pick goes inside the guitar, Ivan. Right. Yeah, man, I'm like, and she's still with me, man. I mean, it was developing. We didn't love each other. We liked each other a whole lot. When we like each other, think of the things that we do. Think of the things that we do when we like all of this. All that you just heard is when we only really liked them. And we only really liked them. See, but what was happening in us? What was happening to us? We were overwhelmed with something. And when we were liking our spouse or liking our fiance or whatever, we're overwhelmed with unselfishness. That's what we're overwhelmed with. Because it's like, I don't care whether she like or whether I don't like it now. I like her, and I'm overwhelmed with this unselfishness, and I'm going to do whatever it is. Long walks, can't stand them. Nope. We're walking long walks, right? Long walks, I don't like doing it. I don't like watching these HGTV shows, but we're going to sit down. We're going to sit down and we're going to watch them, right? We are, because we're overwhelmed. We are overwhelmed when we were liking our spouse with unselfishness. And man, wasn't it a lot of fun? Think back to it. Don't let me just give you examples. Like, you think back to it. You think back to the time, or if it was just recently or whatever. Maybe it was last night when we're at our married night of fun and we're all running around this ping pong table and we're laughing together, and we're, some of you are getting your spouse out and you're like, hey, got you out, I won't say any names, Bradley, but you're like, you're like so pumped or whatever. And I'm just like, it was fun. And some of you right now, you have this uncomfortable look on your face because you know exactly what I'm talking about. That may be something that you haven't been experiencing. And it's crazy to me. It's the craziest thing that when we liked this person, it led us to marriage. And then we started to love this person. And then the fun starts to dwindle somehow. And the things that we did to get to the marriage by liking this person, we're not doing anymore. They aren't happening anymore. And I've heard this. If I've heard it once, I've heard it twice, 3,000 times, whatever. They're just going to have to love me for how I am. Well, no, you're a jerk. No, they don't. No, we're not. I've heard this. No, that's just how I am. I'm just how. Well, what do you mean? Or he's just going to have to. I am how I am. That's just how I am. I saw this person the other day. She got her hair cut, real curly or whatever. I said, oh, man, you got your hair cut. I was like, and I asked her spouse, I was like, do you like it, man? This is cool. You ask your spouse, right? And she was like, no, he was like, no, he likes my hair straight. No, he doesn't like it. I'm just like, we would never, think about this, we would never do that in the dating process, would we? We would never do that. Then why in the world do we do these things in the marriage game? Why do we do these things in the marriage game? It leads us to this moment that we've liked someone so hard, right? That it leads us to this moment where we're sitting at the center of the universe in downtown, or we're in a helicopter on one knee flying over the Rama lights. And we're saying, will you marry me? Because we're going to take it to the next level. And for some of us, I'm like, man, I see it all the time. I'm like, is it really the next level? I know, like, biblically, and the design of it is really like, and the world would say probably, I guess you're married, take it to the next level. Sometimes I wonder if it really is the next level. I thought maybe the first level, when we started liking one another, might have been the level. And somehow the level dropped. And that's not what it was meant to be. The more love comes sometimes, when we have the more love that comes, it's almost like the less like we have. It's like the more love that comes, it's almost like the less like that we have for one another. And here's the thing, the like for one another led you to being married, right? The like for one another led you to being engaged. The like for one another led you to being there. But think about this, it will be your like for your spouse that keeps you married. And you may be saying, no, man, come on, man, stop that, Kenny, with that. It's all about love. Oh, yeah, come on, you're like, no, it's all about love, 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 right? No, I get it. I totally get it. I love you too, great. I've sat in many marital counseling moments where a wife will say across the table to me, with her husband sitting there, I do love him, but I don't like him. And they get a divorce. I've heard my mom say, I loved your dad. You did? I just didn't like him. Some would say, it doesn't matter if I don't like him. Come on. I love him. So what was it? Or what is it that we're experiencing when we're connected in like-mindedness with our spouse? What is it that we're experiencing? Here's what it is, okay? And we're going to talk about it in a minute because it's this thing that you're going to hear the Apostle Paul share with this church in Philippi. He's going to say, here's the thing. He's going to say, if you want this thing, then here's the thing, okay? If you want this thing for your life, then here's the thing. If that's what you wanted, then here you go. This is what he says, okay? So he's going to share it in just a moment. And as we're talking about it, here's what we all want. The Bible calls us to this, unity. That's what the Bible calls us to. It says, now that you're married, don't get it twisted, young people, single people, people who are about to be married, people who are divorced, who are thinking about it. Don't get it twisted. There is no disunity, okay, in marriage. You are now unified as one. The Bible says two become one. It is the essence of me putting two pieces of paper super glued together and becoming one. Rip those things apart and they come apart in thousands of pieces. Can I get an amen? Okay, that's what happens. So that's the in essence of what we're talking about. So if we want that type of unity and we want the fun back in our marriage, then the Apostle Paul speaks to this, and it's this, humility. It's humility. And when we're doing all these crazy things and when we're having fun, think about it. When we're having fun with our spouse, future spouse, whatever, when we're having this fun, overall, we're unselfish. That's what we are. When we're miserable, I can only give you the counter now, right? I can just say here's the counter. When we're miserable, you look around and you realize how selfish you're being. Right? So the Apostle Paul says, okay, so here's the deal. And I want you to lean into this message today from the Apostle Paul. It's huge today, and you'll have no reason, you have no reason to be scared anymore about not having fun. If you lean into this, okay, I promise you, okay, message, it's in your bulletin, follow along with me. Hopefully you guys are have your Bibles maybe on your phones with you. If you haven't ever had a good Bible you want to take with you, there's one in the lobby. If you're watching it online, follow us today. YouVersion app in your phone, super cool, go to the events. You can follow along today. We'll find unity. Here's what we need to know today. We'll find unity through humility. That's what we will. If you want to say, okay, I do want to be one with my wife again, and it hasn't felt like that in forever, well, here's how you're going to find it. You find it through humility, okay? Starting in, here we go, verse 1. It says, therefore, Philippians 2, verse 1. It says, therefore, I love this. He says, therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if you're encouraged by that, if you love that, okay? He says, if any comfort from his love, if common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, if you have any of these things in you. He's like almost pleading. He's saying, if you have any of these things, just a small bit, just a little bit of these things within you, just a little bit of these things. Isn't it funny how he says it? He's just like, if you do. He says, then make my joy complete by being like-minded. Okay, here's why I love this. Because if you have any of those things, if you have Christ in your life, if you have being united with Christ, if you have comfort from his love, any common sharing in the Spirit, as you know this, and if you know the Lord, you have these things. This is a trick question. It's a trick statement. That's all it is. because you should have these things, right? And so he goes on and he says, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and of one mind. I looked up like, right? When we're talking about being like something or whatever, it's like taking part in enjoyment together is what it is. Like when you like something, you're taking part in enjoyment together. And so he's talking about being like-minded. So here's the call for us then. Okay, here's the call for you. Spouses, here's the call for you. Married people, young people, single people, whatever. If you're thinking of this, it's to be like-minded with your spouse. Like-minded with your spouse. How do you do that? You do that through communication. You just talk, man, we talk about this stuff. How many of us sometimes being married for many, many years, right at this point, don't know the things that our spouses like? That we don't even know what they like. But yet we knew in the beginning because we researched and we asked them, what are the things that you like? And you maybe ask now your husband, what are the things that you like? And let's talk about these things so that we can be like-minded. Philippians 2:2, it says, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and one in mind. That whole nonsense, let me just tell you, the whole nonsense about opposites attract. Okay, I know that was a cool like Paula Abdul song back in the 80s or whatever, with the little cat dancing around and like, woo, and she's like, what? I'm like, that is so dumb. I mean, really. Because you don't, if someone is opposite, like you're like, oh, well, they do different things, I don't know. No, but you became like-minded when you begin to like one another. You begin to become like-minded. Try that, young people, all right? Try not to be like-minded with someone that you're with. See how that works. And it does not work out. So if you want the fun back in your marriage, if you want to like your spouse, find out what they like. Find out and become like-minded with that. He goes on in verse 3, he says, do nothing, okay? Again, if you have any of these things in your life, if you have these things, he says, now, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Do nothing, he says, out of these things. Selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself. Value your spouse above yourself. Isn't this what we did to start? It's what we did to start. Why in the world would it have stopped in marriage? And I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear these things, okay? Because here's what we'll do. We'll say, oh, kids, man, God, kids came along, we bought a house and all, and we had to do this and all that. No. You decided to do those things. It didn't change the design of marriage. It did not change the design of marriage. It didn't change. I've heard people say so many times, I just don't got time. I don't have time for it. I don't have time for it. You know how much time we spend on social media? On how much time we'll spend on doing other things instead of, and I'll just go right at it, how much time instead of talking and figuring out and saying, man, I want to value you above all things. I want to value you above all things. I want to take away my selfish ambitions. And so again, you're sitting there, you're saying, we don't have fun. We don't have fun. And I'm saying to you, if you're scared about that, the fact that you don't have fun anymore, I'm telling you and showing you how you have fun in your marriage. You value the other over yourself. This is what the Apostle Paul said. Value them over yourself. In the Greek, you know what this is called? This is called self-examination. You examine. You're like looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, man, I need to understand how I am. Like I need to say, man, I need to understand. I need to check myself, right? I need to look at myself. So number 2, true self-examination. True. Okay, true. Not saying it's your spouse. Will you tell me how I am? No, because they'll lie. All right? They'll lie. They won't tell you the truth. It's the old, do I look big in this dress? No, they're just going to lie. All right? Or do I look funky in this shirt? Yeah, they're not going to tell the truth. You have to do some self-awareness. You have to look in the mirror and say, man, am I being a spouse that values her or him over myself? And here's what I believe it happens. When you do that, you get back to the point you were when you liked them. You just do. And fun starts to come back. It's huge. Some of us would say this, okay? You'd say, okay, sounds good or whatever, man, but I'd take a bullet for my wife. I'd take a bullet for her. Man, let somebody bring a gun in here right now, bust through that door. I'm not jumping in front of you, Pastor. I'm jumping in front of my wife. Okay, it's not happening. That's not going to happen today. Okay? Some of you may say, well, I work all day long. I work all day long. I don't know why I'm using a hick voice, but I don't know. Okay. I work all day long, Pastor. I work all day long. I have meetings from nonstop from 7 a.m. till 6 p.m. Come home, play around with Junior for just a little bit, and then I just have a little time for dinner, and then I got to get back to the computer and check it out, and I'm making money for our family. I'm doing that. Man. Ask me if I've seen that story end, how that ends. And they didn't really value. I mean, that you talk about value. Like the spouse was like, and if you did, spouse, ask them to do that, then you have your own problems. But typically, you never ask them to do that. You just wanted them to value you over all things. That's what you wanted. But we'll make all the excuses in the world of what we're doing except valuing them. My grandfather said that a lot. My grandfather. He said that a lot. He was a painter. He worked all day long, drove his white truck around. This was years ago. Drove all day long, worked on, he has like 7 kids. My grandma has 20-some grandchildren. I mean, it's just crazy, right? So this is all good, right? No, because he worked all day long. And then he was entitled to what he would say, then I'm going to go to the bar because I'm making money for my family. And I bring home, and my grandma would stay home, and they were divorced and married 3 times, I believe. Yeah, married, divorced. She okay, this is going to work. Married, divorced again. And then, saddest thing. I was older. I was already in college maybe, and I had to go down to Lawton. And my grandfather was dying in this house. I never remember the house growing up. It wasn't the house I grew up in. It was just some house. And I remember going in because it was this moment. My mom said, if you want to go see him, this is it, because he's dying of cancer. This is it. And I remember going in there, and I might have even been dating Christy at the time. I don't know. But I remember going in there and seeing him dwindled and dying, and this was it. And thinking of, and a tear, I think he started to be really sad. And I never saw him that way. He was a good old boy, and all that stuff. And I saw that, a tear coming because he was hurting, sad, all that stuff. Saddest thing I saw, because I know that he wishes he could have gone back. And I bet you this is what I believe, that he wishes he would have just valued my grandmother above himself. And everything would have changed. And I have alcoholic uncles, uncles who were on drugs, several divorces. And I sat in that room, and it was dingy, and it smelled, and he was going to die. And all I could think of was, this is the legacy you're going to leave. I went to the funeral a few days later, and I just cried, actually. And it wasn't because my grandfather passed away, because I didn't know him, and I didn't look up to him a ton. I just remember thinking how sad that is, that this is the legacy that he's going to leave. So here's some good news, okay? Because you're like, that's a heavy, I tell you that because I'm not going that direction, and I don't want you going that direction. But here's the good news, okay? The Apostle Paul continued, and we're running out of time, so I'm going to kind of give you the paraphrase. He says, okay, so you've heard all those things, and if this is how you are, then your relationship will be incredible, okay? And he says, and just in case you think it's going to be a bummer, just in case you think it's going to be terrible, he says, let me tell you about a guy who emptied himself and said, I'll humble myself over all things. One who was entitled because he worked all day and and that was what he did, and it was Jesus himself. And he says, we have to see this example of Jesus. What does it say? It says, who being in the very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. He didn't take advantage of his position, spouses. He saw his position and he says, I have that position, but I'll tell you the position I'm going to take. I'm going to empty myself of the reputation that I have of being God, and I'm going to come down and I'm going to serve. And some of you are thinking, well, he went to a cross, man. That hurts. Beaten, spit on, bleeding, all of those things. And he didn't have to do that, but man, that seems like that's not going to work out. That's not fun. No, it wasn't fun. But here's what we read. And you may be saying, what do I get from this? What do I get from this? I mean, I know that's just kind of how we are, but here's the truth of what happened. Then God, when he saw this, exalted him to the highest place. And he gave him the name above all names, that every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that you, Jesus, are the Lord. Okay? That's what happened. When he changed, when he brought the idea of humility to earth in the way that he did, and he says, this is the example. If you want this in your life, then do this. He also brought the example of being highly favored and exalted. Here's what I believe, okay? That you'll find relational favor by humbling yourself like Christ. Like you will find it. You'll say, man, I've got to die to myself. I've got to sacrifice. I've got to serve. All these crazy church words that you want to bring me. But here's the thing. You'll find favor in your marriage if you serve like Christ did. This is what you'll find. We can only read what we have, right? And it's odd because husbands, we want to rule, right? We want to rule, man. I want to take care of my family. I want to be powerful. I want to make sure I'm doing right by my family. I want to do this. I want to do that or whatever. And it's odd because in Scripture, then we'll read that if we want to do that, then we have to actually serve. Like if we want to have that, then we have to serve. If we want to be powerful, then we have to be made weak. You see what I'm saying? If we want to be on high, then we have to be on low. And that's how the Bible is. But yet when we force ourselves into that position in our marriage, whether husband or wife, we're made low anyway. Here's the thing that I'm trying to say. Regardless of the path that you take, we're all going to end up at the feet of Christ, confessing that he is the one that we should have followed. What's going to be the question? What's going to be the way you do it? Will you say, man, I should have followed you. I should have left a better legacy? Or will you say, I'm so glad that I followed you. I'm so glad that I did. Husbands, I believe that we are the joy givers and the joy takers of our home. Okay, let me just say that right away. You are the joy givers. Let you come home and be the one who is stripping the joy away from your children and from your wife. And how is your home right now? It's a house, isn't it? It's a house. But you come home, husbands, ready to be the joy givers, ready to pour love into your homes, ready to like your wife, and watch what happens in your home. It becomes fun. And I believe we carry that. Yes, husbands, you probably didn't want to hear the weight on that on you. I'm sorry. That's how it is. That's how it is. You come home and be all grumpy and everybody's trying to keep away from you. See how that works out. It doesn't work out. So here's what we're going to do, okay? Conclusion, this is it. We're going to do a like inventory in your relationships, okay? Like inventory. And it's really simple. It's really simple. Do not ask this question, okay? I'm just going to tell you this right now. I'm going to tell you this right now. Do not, okay? And you're going to hear the question, and then you're probably going to be a jerk and maybe ask this question. But I'm telling you now, do not ask this question. Do not ask this question. Do you like me? Don't ask the question, okay? I'm throwing that question out. Boom, gone. Do not ask the question. If you do ask the question, I pray that the devil is on your back. Okay, all right. Don't ask that question. Here's the inventory. Here's the question I want you to ask. Okay, I'm going to read it, so I want to make it perfectly clear for you. What can I do? This is what I want you to ask your spouse, future spouse, person next you think that you're going to marry, whatever. What can I do for you to ensure that we will like each other. Do you hear the question? Let me say it again, because you're going to say, I forgot the question. Do you like me? No. It's not what you're going to do, okay? Don't get lazy right now with your listening and go back and default back to the dumb question. Here's the smart question. Here's the question that will create growth in your marriage and in your future marriage. Here's the question. Again, I'll say it again. Like inventory. What can I do for you? What can I do for you to ensure that we will like each other? And if this is your 60th year of marriage, we've been married 60 years or whatever. And maybe you don't even like each other. I know people that have been married for 30-some years who don't like each other. It's miserable. I'm not just this young punk sitting here telling you how your marriage should be. I'm telling you from the experience that I have that people need to do a like inventory. I've asked my wife this week several times. She's probably paranoid now. And I asked her the dumb question, do we like each other, So I'm like, no, there has to be a better question. It's how do we ensure, what can I do to serve you to ensure that we like each other? If you guys are not asking that question, okay, now here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. Do not ask the question now, okay? Okay, don't ask the question like, what can we, no, stop. No, not now. Do not ask the question over at lunch. Okay, don't ask that because it'll get awkward across the table with other people. You're like, well, I want you to wear that thing again that you know. No, all right? No, that's going to be awkward. Stop with that, all right? Don't ask the question on the way home from church with the baby's kids and the demons in the back, all right? And you're like, what can we do to ensure? And you're like, shut up! Anyways, what can we do to, no, do not ask the question on the way home. This needs to marinate all day long, all right? Watching online, don't call and text your wife right now and say, what can we do? No. Let it marinate. And here's when I want you to do it, all right? Kids are in bed, 9 p.m., whatever time you put the kids, 9:30, in our case, sometimes 11:30 at night. We're like, kids are in bed, we're hanging out, okay? Oh, sidebar. Don't ask it during the football game either today, okay? So let's go back to there. Don't ask it during then either, okay? Tonight, when there's nothing going on, sit down and ask the question, how can I serve you to ensure that we like each other? Here's the temptation for your husband or your wife that's not here today or watching this online. They're going to say this, what do you mean? You know I love you. Tell them to shut up. Just say shut it or whatever. Whatever you want to say, that's nice. Zip it, whatever. Say to them, no, I get that. There's many people who've been divorced that love each other. I want us to like each other. Ask the question and be ready for true, honest answers. Stop lying to each other, okay? Stop lying. If he's not listening real well and you want him to listen better and whatever, or he's not affectionate, speak truth, okay? If she has let herself go, or if he has let herself go and that you liked each other and you've never talked about that, and I'm being truthful right now, talk about it. Be honest with each other. Don't play the game of this love marriage and you never, ever liked each other. Let's pray. God, thank you for today. I pray, God, again, that your word is over all of us, Father. We know that, God, your word is true, that if we will be humble, God, if we will humble ourselves, you will give us unity in our marriages, God. You will give us unity in our future marriages, God. You will teach us how to be humble when we're married again, God. Father, I pray that this message resonates to every one of us, God. It's a strong message for me personally, for my own marriage, God, and I'm praying that it is for each person who's heard this today. Let them not, Father, be fake, God. Let there be true self-examination that happens and true conversation tonight, God. I pray, God, over these moments tonight when this happens, that these conversations will happen, that these men will be bold, that they'll pause their games, they'll stop everything they're doing, and they'll just sit across from each other on the couch, sit next to each other on the couch, and they'll say, what can we do to like each other? I'm praying that happens, God. In Jesus' name, amen.